Book 101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is award-winning speaker, not a network TV expert guest, nationally syndicated radio show host, and of course, an attorney too, no other than Mr. Richard Gearhart.
Well, I love the introduction, Daniel. Thank you.
welcome, Mr. Richard on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Sure. So, mostly my career as an intellectual property lawyer. So, intellectual property is patents, trademarks, and copyrights. So, I've been an intellectual property lawyer for 37 years. I worked for big companies for a while. And then about 20 years ago, I decided to start my own practice. Gearhart Law is headquartered in Summit, New Jersey, and we have over 4,000 clients that we've served over the last 20 years. For the most part, they've been entrepreneurs, but we also work with some large companies. And we love working with entrepreneurs because they're so passionate about their projects, right? And
Yes.
we are sort of on the tip of the spear in the world of intellectual property. We get to see the new projects and the new technologies that are emerging. So I like to say we get to see the world a couple of years in advance of everybody else. And so it's a very satisfying job. And I love what I do. I started, a long time ago when I was very young, and I've never really thought about doing anything other than intellectual property. And about 7 years ago, we were approached by iHeart, and we were asked if we would want to do a radio show. And so my wife and I said yes. She's my co-host on the Passage to Profit show, and it's been great. We get a chance to talk with all sorts of entrepreneurs. We're get to talk about businesses and business growth. We're talking a lot about artificial intelligence right now, and it's a great experience for us and our audience. We're syndicated across 38 stations across the United States. So it's a real honor to serve our audience and help educate entrepreneurs.
Educate entrepreneurs. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Richard. Thank you so much. And today, let's talk about the biggest challenges facing entrepreneurs and investors today. Beyond the obvious issuing of funding, what is the most underestimated psychological challenge facing today's entrepreneurs, and how can they armor themselves against it, Mr. Richard?
I think one of the biggest challenges, I mean, part of being an entrepreneur is that you have to face a lot of challenges, right? And you have to, face personal challenges. You have to find ways to grow as a person because in order for the business to grow, I think you have to grow too. And you may not, for example, be used to managing a staff, but you have to learn how to do that. You may not be an expert in accounting, but you need to understand enough to know whether your business is profitable. And you may not be a whiz in marketing. Some entrepreneurs on the technical side underestimate the importance of marketing. On the other hand, people who are very much on the marketing side may not appreciate how important it is to have a very solid product that works and delivers results for clients. So I think there's a lot of challenges that entrepreneurs have to face. But I think the biggest one is staying emotionally healthy when you're facing difficult challenges. And I think one of the studies that I saw recently was that entrepreneurs' ability to succeed depends a lot on their ability to withstand pressure and cope with the changes that they have to go through as the business landscape changes. And so I would say, just really staying mentally strong with the right mindset is the biggest challenge that entrepreneurs face. Fortunately now, entrepreneurs have a lot of support. They have other entrepreneurs to talk to. And that's one of the things that Passage to Profit offers is the perspective of entrepreneurs who are facing challenges. And the guests on our show talk about their challenges. And that helps entrepreneurs realize that they're not the only ones who are facing challenges. And I think it gives them hope and confidence that they can overcome them.
Indeed, how to overcome the struggles for sure. The piece of a change in tech and customer behavior is dizzying. How does an entrepreneur today build a viable long term strategy when the ground is constantly shifting beneath their feet?
Well, Daniel, when we were talking about challenges, that was something that I was thinking about too. I had in mind the same concepts because things are changing so rapidly. For example, artificial intelligence is certainly changing the playing field. It's not really certain for some entrepreneurs whether they need to hire a marketing assistant or whether they can rely on artificial intelligence. I think that the the most fundamental way to manage all of the information is to pick a course, define a strategy, stay true to that strategy, don't become overly distracted. But when the information environment changes, then you need to take that information into account and decide whether you need to change your strategy. So I think of it taking it at one step at a time. Don't overthink all of the new information and technologies, but be aware of them. So, for example, our law firm gets solicitations from lead generation companies all the time. And these lead generation companies are constantly promoting new ways for us to find potential clients. And some of them seem pretty attractive. But if I changed my marketing strategy every time I got a solicitation from a lead generation company, I never get anything done. And maybe this company can bring me 20% more leads than what I've got now. But by staying focused on our current strategy, it generates enough leads for our company. So it may be at the end of the year, we do a survey of all lead generation efforts and we change our strategy. But for right now, we believe in staying consistent.
Interesting indeed, Mr. Richard. When an age of a hustle culture, how do you differentiate between healthy, driven work ethic and a toxic burnout that ultimately kills creativity and businesses?
Well, I think that's very individual. I think each person needs to pay attention to their own rhythms, their own sleep cycles, their preferences for exercise, their eating habits. And I think you have to do what's right for you. And you have to pay attention to when you're starting to feel drained. Um, Personally, I enjoy my work. I look forward to headaches, business headaches, because it's an opportunity for me to solve problems. And so the burnout comes when your mindset changes. And uh, and so I think keeping a proper mindset goes a long way to success. And and then obviously taking good care of yourself, knowing what your body's limits are and not going, too far, too fast, too soon. So,
Too fast. My goodness. Too fast will drain your energy. Slowly
well,
but surely.
yeah, I know some people though who get more energy by working harder,
Mm.
and there are other people who feel challenged, you know, and it just depends on the individual. So yeah, um, I think the exhaustion comes from frustration. At least that's how it is for me. If
Yes.
I'm if I'm feeling frustrated, that's when I start to feel burnt out. And at that point, I try to take a step back and and look at things. I also spend an hour every day writing out my thoughts, stream of consciousness. First thing I do when I get up. I get up at 5 a.m. and I do keep a journal and I write in it for an hour. And through that journal, I process every thought that goes through my mind. And usually, after writing the journal, I have two or three ideas that I want to explore. And I also feel like a burden has been lifted. So, doing that consistently, I think, has helped me maintain a fresh attitude and a good mindset.
A good mindset indeed. And Mr. Richard, for investors, the leap from a brilliant prototype to scalable manufacturable product is famously difficult. What is the most common fatal mistake made in this valley of death?
In the valley of death. So, going from a prototype to a manufacturing process, um, I think the biggest mistake is not having manufacturing input from from the beginning. So if you're designing your prototype and you haven't engaged a manufacturing expert or engineer in the creation of the prototype, then it could be that the prototype is not properly, you have to make too many changes to the prototype or the prototype is too expensive to make. So in some places, for example, some of our clients will have products manufactured in China. They will work with the factory in designing the prototype because the factory knows what can be made and they know what the costs of manufacturing are. And that knowledge is incorporated into the prototype itself. And so, while of course you can't guarantee product success, you can ensure that your product is going to be manufacturable and that it can be made for a realistic cost, a cost that the market will bear. So I would say not really getting the proper manufacturing considerations in from the beginning.
The operational and financial hurdles. Let's talk about talent. In a competitive market, how can a cash-strapped startup attract and retain players when they can't compete with the corporate salaries?
Uh, that's always going to be a challenge. I think that I think what you're selling as a startup is a vision and a future. And the CEO, if it's a small company, has to sell a vision and a future that has a bigger payoff than what somebody would get in a corporate environment. And they have to be able to also differentiate themselves from a corporate environment by maybe showing, flexibility in terms of working hours, uh, opportunities to be creative and to create, actually participate in the creation of the company. So when I started, I had that issue. I had to hire attorneys to help me who would be getting, better salaries than some of the larger firms were paying. And I had to have the employees believe in me that I could help create a better future for them than what they would get in a more traditional setting. And so one of those things was the ability to create a practice that they wanted to create rather than a practice that was imposed upon them by a larger firm and the management of that firm. And then you have to find the people that value that. And so we created a compensation structure where employees could benefit to a very large degree, and if they were able to create a practice that was, attractive to potential clients. And I said, you can create, just about anything you want as long as it fits within the basic principles and core beliefs of the firm. And so as a result, we were able to attract high quality people who wanted that flexibility and that ability to create something that was theirs. And they were people that had come from a more traditional environment and were frustrated that they couldn't really um, create the kind of practice that they wanted. So that's how we did it.
You did it, Mr. Richard. And as award-winning speaker, network TV expert guest, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
My goals are really just to continue to grow the law firm. We have a goal to double our revenue in 5 years, and I'm very excited about that. We formed a new administrative team recently that will be taking over a lot of the things that I'm doing so I can focus on other things. And so that's my goal, is to double our revenue in 10 years. I think or I'm sorry, in 5 years. Um, and that to me is very exciting. Um, I want to be able to continue to help educate the public about entrepreneurism and intellectual property, and to do that through our radio program and our YouTube channels and other avenues. I enjoy being able to share my experience with an audience, and so I plan to continue to do that. Uh, and then I also want to find ways to probably spend some more time on my hobbies. I like to sail. I like to build things in my workshop. And I'm also a relatively new grandfather. So finding time to spend with my grandchildren is at the top of my list.
Congratulations, Mr. Richard, and looking forward for more success. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Uh, well, don't be like me, be like yourself, right? Um,
Mm.
Oscar Wilde said, be yourself, everybody else is already taken, right? And if you want to be financially successful, if that's your goal, and to create a nice career for yourself, I did it by being focused and being organized. And so I think those are important characteristics. I don't think I'm overly organized, but I am organized and I'm good at planning. So, having the business plan, understanding the the value proposition, why somebody would want to hire you or hire your service or purchase your product is really important. And understanding that from the beginning, what is the value proposition and what is the leverage that you're offering? So, in the case of intellectual property, somebody can get a patent on a technology for $20,000. They can protect a market that may be 500 or a million, $5 million. So, for a small investment in intellectual property, they can protect a market that's quite large. And so that's the leverage that intellectual property offers, and that's why companies invest in it. Even if somebody's able to avoid your patent eventually, if you have $1 million in sales and you spent $20,000 to get your patent, and you delay their entry in the market for 6 months you've because they have to design around your patent, then you've spent $20,000 to save $500,000 in sales. So that's the leverage that intellectual property offers companies. It's not an expense, it's an investment. So understanding the leverage that your product offers is, I think, really key to being successful.
To be successful indeed. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey? And thank you for that advice, Mr.
Sure.
Richard.
The book that's probably been the most influential, a book that I've studied for the last 20 years, I've read at least 3 or 4 times, and I incorporate it into my business life every day, is Dave Allen's book, Getting Things Done. And what I found so important about this book is it provides a structure for making sure that your business tasks get done on a regular basis. And it describes a system of personal organization that is very important to make sure that you are thorough in your understanding of what needs to be done and that you think through a logical sequence of getting things done and that you always know the next task that is on your to-do list. And I found this particular method of organizing very effective for me. And I attribute a lot of my success to that because based on this, I've been able to plan and organize my work and my daily tasks to get things done. And so getting things done in a consistent manner is very important in any business. You want to, at least part of your business needs to be almost like a machine that just runs constantly and consistently. And I think that's an important key to business success. And so the Dave Allen book, Getting Things Done, has made a big difference for me.
Thank you for that recommended book, Mr. Richard. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Richard, if you could give one piece of a counter advice to someone with great idea and fine in their belly, what would it be?
Uh, my advice would be get some feedback on the idea before you go all in. Make sure that the idea is going to have some market traction, and you can do informal surveys. There's lots of people out there who would probably comment on it, but you need a little bit of uh, objective perspective on the idea. And if you don't get the feedback you want, you can always change it and make improvements. So I'm not suggesting that you should give up, but I think you should look before you leap, and just get some confirmation that your idea has some market pull.
Yes, indeed. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Richard. And can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your projects, or anything you want to promote on Book 101?
Sure. If you're interested in intellectual property, you can contact us at our website, gearhartlaw.com. And if you're interested in listening to Passage to Profit, our radio show, go to passagetoprofitshow.com or check out your podcast anywhere that you get your podcasts. We're available on all the platforms.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Richard Gearhart, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Mr. Richard, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Monica, people, see you soon.